Okay. Hi, everyone. A very good evening to all of you. So, this is a special editorial analysis session. Why? Because I am live on the portal as well as on our YouTube channel. So, can you quickly confirm that I am visible and audible at both the places? Yes. All right. I hope all of you can hear me. Hi, Sam. Hello, Himanshi. Hi, Nandini. Good evening, Ankit. Thank you for confirming, Sam. Great. That's great. Thank you, Suryansh, for confirming. Good evening, Mahi, Ishita. All right. So the idea was that you can see how our portal looks like, and I can launch polls on the portal. So that's the added advantage, right? Hence this session live on both the platforms. Okay. All right, then let's begin. So, 11 editorial analysis sessions have already happened, and in these 11 sessions, I have brought to you articles from different sources, right? So, you can check them on YouTube. Some of them have happened on the portal, you can check them there. And I have endeavored to bring you articles from newspaper sources, right, as well as from various magazines. And usually I bring in opinion pieces, right, articles that are not just news pieces but also are giving the opinion of an expert. Okay, all right then. So today I thought finally I should come to Eon. So far we haven't done any editorial from Eon. So I thought to bring one from there. And I consciously decided to pick an older article, an older piece, because I'm sure you are reading the newer pieces there, right? I'm assuming that you are a regular visitor to the Eon website and you are reading opinion pieces there. Okay, so am I right in assuming that? Hi Kashish. Yes. Have you been reading articles from Aeon? So I understand that these are long articles, yes? So this article also, this piece also that I have picked, the length of the complete article is 4,000 words. Okay. So I understand that's a lot, but what you can do is you can, one solution to that is set a timer, right? So for let's say 4,000 words, if you set a timer for 20 minutes, that means per minute your reading speed is still 200 words, which is a very average reading speed. It's not a fast reading speed. So one is this, and then focus on capturing just the gist, right? You don't have to capture each and every detail. And another solution is that if let's say this is too much for you and right now a time constraint makes you nervous, you can then decide to complete this in sittings. So let's say in one sitting 2000 words, in another sitting 2000 words. So you can break it. Okay. Only reading newspaper editorial. Sumit, I would recommend that you read some e-magazines as well, right? Because newspaper sources, if you pick up today's newspapers, national, international, their global pages, they talk about Trump, right? So there will be so much information on Trump, but we have to read other topics as well, no, apart from what US is doing. So I do recommend reading some magazines as well. Okay. Frontline is good for current affairs. It's a good source. However, it has not, like, I mean, passages from that have not appeared in your cat as, I mean, if I talk about the last 10 years, right? NYT good, WSJ good, Guardian Economist, excellent Suryansh. The Economist is, that is Suryansh's magazine source. So good. Okay. Okay. So you're saying that I should maximize this, yes? That's what you're saying. Uh, Let me figure that out. I'll just figure that out. Okay, and sometimes I don't, but I keep a habit of that. Okay, so Himanshi, that's a normal human tendency. What you are saying, that we try to read the newspapers, but sometimes we are not. On some days, we are not able to do that. To do it, uh, again, consistency may not look like this. It may not be this same curve like this. Okay, so maybe on some days you're very motivated. You ended up reading two articles. On some day, maybe you didn't get time. You read zero article. While we should try that it turns out to be a smooth curve. So in the long run, our effort should be that it is pretty much a smooth curve, but it is okay to have these spaces. Just ensure that this does not become a habit to not read, right? All right. Can we follow editorial from the Hindu? You can, but why I recommend international sources is because we are purely looking from the perspective of what have been the sources of your CAT RCs. Right, so for general knowledge, for current affairs, for your WATs, PIs, information, definitely the Hindu is a great source. For RC perspective, I would recommend the other sources that I've told you. You can refer to editorial 5, the 5th editorial session. There I listed all those 20 sources. Okay, I also made an Instagram reel on this. Do you really need to subscribe to magazines and newspapers? That's the name of the reel. You can check that out. Okay, how to retain the information. All right, let's do that. So Kar, I don't know why you have this name, but why you've put this as your name. So let's do this, right? We'll read something and we'll try to retain information. So at the end of the editorial, I'll ask you what all key points you remember, right? Yes, it is absolutely the right time, Sumit. So that's what we are doing right now. The conversation is good, Stellify. Okay, so this is, I hope, visible to everybody. Read this paragraph on your own, then I'll read it for you. I'll explain it to you. Okay, read it. Let me know once you've finished. Sumit has completed. Others? Okay. So did you find this challenging? This paragraph? More time. Okay. Okay. All right. All right. All right. Okay, so let's discuss this, right? I understand that the word pragmatic genealogies and what they are talking about, this could be a little complex. Okay, what necessities might have led to the invention of the ideas of truth, knowledge, and justice? So, today in our world, it's like in most of the world and among most of the people, it is an established idea that, justice should prevail, we should speak the truth, or this very idea of truth versus lies, or justice versus injustice. What constitutes knowledge? This is also something which is being debated, but we do have an idea of knowledge, what knowledge is, right? So the author asks us, what necessities, क्या ज़रूरत पड़ गई होगी हमें ऐसी कि ये वाले आइडियाज़ हमारे वर्ल्ड में आए, हमारी लाइफ में आए. द आइडिया ऑफ ट्रूथ वर्सेस लाइज, द आइडिया ऑफ जस्टिस प्रिवेलिंग, द आइडिया ऑफ ट्रूथ, दैट ट्रूथ ऑट टू बी स्पोकन. तो क्या इनकी नीड रही होगी? दैट इज वॉट द ऑथर इज क्वेश्चनिंग इन द वेरी फर्स्ट सेंटेंस. या वॉट इफ एनी थिंग डू दे स्टिल डू फॉर अस? और ठीक है, एक बार आए तो आए, पर आर दे सर्विंग सम पर्पस टुडे, राइट? the idea of truth, the idea of justice. ये हमारे लिए क्या कर रहे हैं आज? That's the question. Again, another question. So whenever your paragraph starts with questions, those questions are usually, they are just veiled ideas, key ideas. Because the author is asking questions because probably they intend to answer it, right? Or probably they want to discuss about them. That's the intention. So हमेशा ये important होते हैं. There exist fundamental difficulties in answering these questions. So, of course, not easy questions to answer. No, तब क्या necessity रही होगी? Yeah. However, in recent decades, philosophers have rediscovered an old method capable of overcoming these difficulties. So, philosophers have come up with a solution that can help us overcome these difficulties, the difficulties in answering these questions. Okay. So now he tells us what is that solution, what is that method. This is the method of telling pragmatic genealogies of ideas. Pragmatic genealogies. What is the meaning of the word pragmatic? Yes. Pragmaticism. It means pragmatic means practical. वो चीज़ जो इम्प्लीमेंट करी जा सकती है, कोई प्रैक्टिकल चीज़, राइट. एंड व्हाट इज जीनियालॉजी? हु विल टेल मी? गुड साहिल कर सैम. यस, जीनियालॉजी. अ वर्चुअल चॉकलेट टू द स्टूडेंट हु टेल्स मी द मीनिंग ऑफ जीनियालॉजी. The study tracing the ancestry of something. Yes, excellent. Suryansh, quite close kar, right? So genealogy is tracing. Yes, you can associate it with genes, right? So Stellify, that is the etymological meaning, but it's not study of genes. Study of genes is genetics, right? Tracing the ancestry of something. Tracing the ancestry of something is genealogy. ओके. सो अब हम भी क्या कर रहे हैं, हम ये जानने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं ना कि आए कैसे, ओरिजिन कैसे हुआ. सो इन दैट सेंस वी आर यूजिंग द वर्ड जीनियालॉजी इन द सेंस ऑफ ओरिजिन, राइट. सो दिस इज द मेथड ऑफ टेलिंग प्रैग्मेटिक जीनियालॉजीज ऑफ आइडियाज. आइडियाज का ओरिजिन ट्रेस कर रहे हैं हम. जीनियालॉजीज बिकॉज द मेथड इन्वॉल्व्स ट्रेसिंग आइडियाज टू देयर ओरिजिन्स. Right. So see, even if a word, a term appears difficult to you, please don't stop right there. Okay. Read further. The context will give you the meaning. And here the author has explained the meaning. Context से भी infer नहीं करना पड़ रहा, वो अपने आप ही बता ही रहा author. Right. That it involves tracing ideas to their origins. And pragmatic because it specifically seeks to understand their origins in practical concerns. Very important idea. So we want to see that what was the need, what was the practical need that led to these ideas being invented, right? So we are explaining this now. We are trying to explain this now. Okay. Yes, Sam. Excellent that you spotted that. In particular, the genealogical approach exploits one especially powerful way to get a sense of what an idea does for us. So what is the way, right? It says it uses one specially powerful way to get a sense of what an idea does for us. तो क्या वे यूज कर रही है वो, देखते हैं. Consider a community. Now see, एक example आता है. It asks you to visualize something, right? So do visualize it whenever this happens. So consider a community of human beings in which the idea is still lacking. Let's say एक community है. Let's say अभी हमारी community है, right? आप सब और मैं. तो हमें नहीं पता ट्रूथ क्या होता है, ट्रूथ या जस्टिस क्या होता है, राइट? सो द आइडिया स्टिल लैकिंग अमंग अस. एंड एक्सप्लोर व्हाई दे माइट बी ड्रिवन टू इन्वेंट इट. सो नाउ फॉर दिस कम्युनिटी वी विल एक्सप्लोर दैट अब हमें क्यों ज़रूरत पड़ेगी ये आइडिया इन्वेंट करने की, राइट? This community is typically a small community of human beings, like we are a small community right now, who share a common language. Let's say English is the common language that we share, but do not yet have more elaborate forms of technology such as writing. Let's assume writing नहीं exist करती हमारे world में. ये assumption है purely, right? So the author is now walking you through what they what this method entails, इस मेथड में क्या होगा pragmatic genealogies में, वो बता रहा है ऑथर हमें. Is this now clear to you? What we are exploring? We are exploring कि एक सोसाइटी, बहुत पुरानी एक कम्युनिटी में क्या ज़रूरत पड़ी होगी ट्रुथ की, जस्टिस की, नॉलेज की, राइट? ऐसे आइडियाज़ की. ओके, वेरी स्मॉल पैराग्राफ, रीड क्विकली. रेड? Yeah. So it says that the genealogists of today, contemporary genealogists often label this model the state of nature. क्या है state of nature? वो वाली community जिसकी अभी हमने बात करी है. वो community जो कि एक small community है, इसका एक shared common language है और उसमें ये idea exist नहीं करता. उसको कहते हैं state of nature. Has any of you read about state of nature anywhere else? Perhaps, let's say, you've read the works of Hobbes, Hume, Rousseau, or anybody else. Okay, so where I read this for the first time was in the ideas of John Rawls. So, John Rawls actually gave a theory of justice, and this is where he talks about this in detail. He again creates this मॉडल ऑफ स्टेट ऑफ नेचर, और वहाँ से वो एक्सप्लोर करता है कि जस्टिस की ऐसे क्या ज़रूरत पड़ गई होगी एंड स्टफ लाइक दैट. ओके, सो जॉन रॉल्स का यू कैन जस्ट रेफर टू what he says about justice. Interesting stuff. Okay, anyway, coming back, so when I say in a nod to somebody, that means somebody who has written something before you, somebody who has said something before you, and you are agreeing with them. So that's why in a nod to, in agreement with, right? उनसे agree कर रहे हो आप. So they also explored the origins of ideas and institutions using state of nature stories. Okay, उन्होंने भी. So, these are like thought experiments. Do you know what thought experiments are? Yes. उसमें हम, जैसे physical experiments में we actually go and experiment in a laboratory. In thought experiments, we imagine scenarios, right? And then we try to find out a solution. Imagining scenarios and trying to find out a solution. That is a thought experiment. For example, ethics ke dilemmas mein this is very common. So you've heard of this situation that there is a train, right? It's now going to cross a track where there are 5 people, okay, who are tied to the track. Now if you as a person, you have the lever, you have the power to press the lever, which will divert the train to another path. Now on this path, yes, the trolley problem, absolutely correct. This is called the trolley problem. So now on the other path, there is just one person instead of 5 people here. So now what would you do? Would you divert? So this is called this is an ethical dilemma. Whether you consider the number of life saves important, whether, let's say, each human life has infinite value. So yeah, so these are thought experiments. And यहाँ पर भी ये क्या कर रहे हैं, ये state of nature की stories बना के hypothesize करके सोच रहे हैं कि अच्छा क्या होना चाहिए था, क्या ज़रूरत पड़ी होगी, right? But there is a difference. So these philosophers, Hobbes, Hume, Rousseau, इनके कॉन्सेप्ट में क्या था, their state of nature, when they talked about a state of nature, they talked about a historical community. Let's say उन्होंने बोला कि नियंडरथल्स का टाइम इमेजिन करते हैं, राइट? नियंडरथल्स लाइक हमारे प्रेजेंट ह्यूमन बींग्स के एंसेस्टर्स, और उस सोसाइटी में ना ऐसे ऐसे कंडीशंस एग्जिस्ट करती थी. साइंस की वजह से हमें पता है ना, वी नो बिकॉज ऑफ साइंस व्हाट काइंड ऑफ कंडीशंस एग्जिस्टेड देयर. सो these philosophers imagined such state of natures. Their state of natures, they were historical. They had a historical basis. But in our case, हमारे केस में जो हमारी state of nature है वो completely fictional है. It's an expressly fictional idealization, right? And of an expressly fictional imagination of a society. It is not something you find out about, it is something you construct. So it is not, let's say, the Neanderthal society about which you can find out something. It is not, let's say, people in the 1800s about which you are trying to find out something. You are actively constructing it. ये story है बिल्कुल ही fiction. ठीक है? Makes sense to everybody so far? Yes, Himanshi, I just saw your message. Correct. Not daydreaming. Okay. So let's move further. Okay. One big paragraph. So I've put it para by para today. Read it and then I'll explain. Done? Okay. Yes. People on YT. Done? Okay. Yes, most of the paragraph, in fact. See, from here till here, it was excellent, Suryansh. Excellent. It was example. ओके तो अब ये आप बहुत स्पीडली पढ़ सकते हो दिस राइट लेट्स से यू रेड दिस एंड देन द रेस्ट ऑफ इट दिस पार्ट you can read very speedily. In fact, this sentence is also a reiteration, right? So now a very good question. Ankit said that what if I don't understand the meanings of some words. So for instance, let's say hominin here or Pleistocene here. What should you do? Okay, so let's see. This sets pragmatic genealogies apart from evolutionary psychology's conjectural depictions of hominin life in the Pleistocene. अब लेट्स से आपको नहीं पता प्लाइस्टोसीन क्या है, राइट? बट चलो देखते हैं कि क्या हमें आसपास का भी कुछ कैन बी इन्फर. ठीक है. So basically it says that this method that we are using right now, pragmatic genealogies, it is different. It is different from another approach. The approach of evolutionary psychology. अब वो evolutionary है तो वो evolution के perspective से trace करेगी, history एक तरह से trace करेगी, right? Because it is evolutionary psychology. Evolutionary psychology's conjectural depictions. Okay, who knows the meaning of conjecture? Who will tell me what conjecture is? Yes, when we are speculating. Yes, it's a speculation. When we are guessing something. So simply a guess. So this field actually made guesses, right? Now because it is evolutionary psychology, it makes guesses about our, again, human ancestors like Neanderthals. Hominin kya hota hai? Hominin, anybody? Even if you don't know it, that's okay. Hominin life in the Pleistocene. So this is an era. This is simply a period. ओके, होमिनिन लाइफ ऐसा लग रहा है ह्यूमन बींग से कुछ रिलेटेड है, तो डिपिक्शंस ऑफ होमिनिन लाइफ इन द प्लाइस्टोसीन. दिस इज हाउ यू हैव टू ट्राई टू इन्फर इट कॉन्टेक्चुअली. और अगर नहीं भी आया, राइट, दैट डज नॉट मीन दैट यू स्टॉप देयर. ट्राई टू इन्फर इट द बेस्ट दैट यू कैन, जितना भी समझ में आया. लेट्स से आपको बस इतना ही समझ में आया कि प्रैक्टिकल जीनियोलॉजी जो अप्रोच है, इट इज़ डिफरेंट फ्रॉम अनदर अप्रोच. दैट्स इट. इवन इफ यू अंडरस्टूड दिस, प्रोसीड. डोंट थिंक दैट आगे का नहीं समझ में आएगा. ओके, मे बी दिस इज नॉट इवन इम्पॉर्टेंट इन द लार्जर पिक्चर. Yes, hominin means hominin. Okay, I'm struggling for some space. Hominin refers to people who are humans' ancestors or very similar to human beings. So, human beings, people similar to human beings, ancestors of human beings, collectively they are called hominins. Right? Pleistocene. अभी तो हम नॉलेज के लिए कर रहे हैं ना, तो आई एक्सप्लेन, आई गिव यू द मीनिंग्स ऑफ ऑल ऑफ देम. Yes, I have deliberately chosen a relatively complex passage today. Right. Apes, okay. Ancestors of human beings, apes, ठीक है. Pleistocene. Yes, Suryansh, even that is enough. It's an era, yes. So it is basically, see, geologists, what they do. Geology is a subject, right? The study of rocks, the study of land, right? So geologists do that. Rocks especially, right? So what they've done is they've divided the periods in history into scenes. Scene means new, actually, right? So Pleistocene was a period in history, okay, when we had these former, the ancestors of human beings. That is Pleistocene. बस उतना ही पता होना चाहिए. Okay, your homework is, you will find out which era we are currently in, which geological era we are currently in. Okay, all right. So बेसिकली ये सेंटेंस हमें बस कह रहा है कि ये वाला जो मेथड है, क्योंकि ये हिस्ट्री में नहीं घुस रहा है, इट्स नॉट गोइंग इन टू हिस्ट्री, राइट. वी आर नॉट रियली गोइंग इन टू the historical depiction of things, right? It's not something that we are trying to find out about. So that's why it is different from this historical evolutionary approach. Yes? Pragmatic genealogies prove themselves not through the detailed accuracy with which they depict the actual historical development of our concepts, but how do they prove themselves? Through the way in which they help us grasp connections between our practical needs and our concepts. कि उन दोनों के बीच में क्या कनेक्शन है, जस्टिस का कॉन्सेप्ट और उसकी प्रैक्टिकल नीड में क्या कनेक्शन है, हम सिंपली ये देखना चाह रहे हैं, राइट. Now this is entirely an example, right? So imagine having to explain to an alien. अब वो बोल रहे हैं कि अगर एक एलियन को भी कार के बारे में समझाना है, तो पूरा उसका इवोल्यूशन ट्रेस करने के बजाय या एक एक पार्ट कैसे बना उसका वैसे बताने के बजाय, इट विल ऑफ कोर्स बी मोर हेल्पफुल इफ यू टेल हिम दैट ओके, दिस इज हाउ इट सॉल्व्स दिस प्रॉब्लम, दिस इज हाउ इट सॉल्व्स दिस प्रॉब्लम. सो इट इज मीटिंग अ नीड. Okay, the need to stay warm and dry, the need to move from A to B, etc, etc, etc. Right? Make sense? So the state of nature does the same to help us understand the shape of our concepts and their relation to our needs. Again, a reiteration. See, a reiteration of this. Yes? It offers us an idealized, uncluttered model. Idealized hai model because you are constructing that fictional society. Uncluttered model. Uncluttered, why? Because it's a simple model, right? See, it's a small community, shared language but no writing. So uncluttered hai, उसमें multiple variables नहीं है. So idealized, uncluttered model that we can tailor to our interests. So we can now tweak it to our interests. We can tinker with it, tweak it. We can tweak it in our imagination. Okay. So philosophy passages, one of you has written in the chat box that you find it difficult to grasp philosophy passages. That's because a lot of times we get bogged down whenever we see a philosophy passage. हमें लगता है नहीं समझ में आएगा. But actually the examiner also understands that you are not a philosopher or you're not a philosophy student. So see, this example, it simplifies things so much for you. So don't leave a passage simply because it mentions the word philosophy or talks about a philosophy. right? Something I tell you time and again. Okay, the last paragraph. Let's see what you say about it. We'll discuss and then we'll attempt questions. Done? Our concepts, okay, so कर you ask this, our concepts mean the concept of justice, truth, knowledge, जो हम जिसके बारे में find out कर रहे हैं. Okay. Yes, yes, yes. The assembly line of the car, basically, there you are looking at each part, how it developed, how it fits into the car. Yes, Prithviraj. It is exemplifying that. Okay. So you've read this? All right. Because of this, the state of nature also helps us overcome the fundamental difficulty of knowing where to begin to unscramble the inscrutable multifunctionality of our ideas. See, the ideas of justice, truth, knowledge, they are complex ideas, right? They serve multiple functions. So, this, because this is such a simple model, right? See what our previous sentence stated, that this offers an uncluttered model, right? छोटी सी community, writing भी नहीं है उसमें, uncluttered model, simple model, और हम उसको फिर tailor कर सकते हैं अपने according, right? So this helps us to overcome this difficulty of knowing where to begin, because these are such multifunctional concepts that if I don't simplify the model that I'm dealing with, right? if I have a complex society instead, तो एक complex society में तो ये बहुत सारे function serve कर सकते हैं, justice, truth, knowledge, right? So ये state of nature हमें इस problem को overcome करने में help करती है. That's what we are saying, right? There is a question on this sentence. That's why I don't want to explain it a lot. Otherwise, I would end up answering the question itself. We start with the most basic and generic needs that human beings can be safely assumed to have anyway, right? We're starting with the most basic and generic needs. तो हमारी society बहुत एक तरह से basic society है, उसकी needs भी बहुत basic हैं, generic हैं. You will not see iPads and iPods with them, right? In just about any environment, and see if we can identify. अब हमने उसको environment agnostic लिया, means कि वो किसी भी environment में हो सकती है. These could be communities in a forest, these could be communities in, let's say, a coast, right? कुछ भी हो सकता है. And see if we can identify some way in which these seemingly idle concepts, ऐसा लगता है ना कि ये क्या ही कर रहे हैं हमारी लाइफ में, क्या ही पर्पस सर्व कर रहे हैं. सो दे सीम टू बी आइडल, राइट? In which these seemingly idle concepts would be of assistance in responding to those needs, right? So we take a very basic community and see how these concepts would be of assistance, would be of use in responding to some needs of those societies, very basic and generic needs of those societies, right? This fictional starting point gives us a helpfully stripped down. When you strip something down of something, basically आप उसके जितने भी let's say embellishments हैं वो निकाल रहे हो और उसकी बहुत basic version रख रहे हो बस एक. It's the most basic model, the most essential things are kept in a stripped down device, in a stripped down model, right? What is heuristic? We have a word, heuristic device. Heuristic. So you've heard of trial and error. So heuristic means when you yourself develop a solution to the concept. Let's say there is no set method you are following. In a trial and error way, you are coming to a solution. So it creates that kind of a device for us, right? हम देखते हैं अच्छा इसलिए यूजफुल रहा होगा, ये नीड रही होगी, अच्छा ये नीड रही होगी, and that's how we are trying to come to a solution. So we are, what we are indulging in is called explorative reflection. We are exploring, right? ये नीड थी, नीड वन, नहीं नहीं ये नीड रही होगी, that way. On the problems we face and how certain concepts might help us solve them. So ये हमें बताएगा कि कैसे कुछ concepts जो हैं वो हमारी actual problem solve कर सकते हैं, right? I hope this makes sense. The last bit. Okay. All right. So the title of this article was Ideas That Work. Ideas that work. Right. We have 4 questions now. I hope heuristic, it's usually logical. It's a term that is often used in statistics, right? So, usually logical, right? Also, somebody was mentioning that they don't retain ideas, right? So, before we proceed to questions, can we quickly do a roundup of what the key ideas are in this excerpt that you've read? Right. So, slide 1 की अगर मैं बात करूँ, the first page, क्या की आइडियाज थे उस पर? It started with questions. What necessities? Then it defined pragmatic genealogy. Yes, I want the answers to come from you. Define pragmatic genealogies. How it might help us to identify the necessities that these concepts are serving. Then it explained, the second slide, what it did. It explained state of nature. Justice and knowledge, pragmatic genealogy is a good way. Okay. So the second slide, it then compared it with what various philosophers have also done. Yes, they also came up with this concept. But how this current state of nature is different from their definition of state of nature, from the way they dealt with it, right? And then continuing this idea how it is different, we then gave a whole example that how it is in fact better also. Yes, talking about the function of the car, talking about how it fulfills a particular function, a need, right? And the last one, what did that say? Yes, following from this last sentence, we then expanded that इससे बहुत फ़ायदा है, ये बहुत basic model है, right? And because of it being basic, it can help us to identify कि क्या ज़रूरत रही होगी उन concepts की, right? And how they might really help us to solve our problems. Okay. Okay, fictional, constructed, yes, that was our slide number 2, absolutely. Right, that was slide number 3, correct Suryansh? Okay. Yes, Pleistocene was given as in, like it was just a way of saying it. ऐसा नहीं था Pleistocene era का कुछ importance है इस पूरे excerpt में. Right, it was just as an example. Okay, ठीक है, तो अब करते हैं questions फिर. Key ideas. So see key ideas. How had I retained them? Geographically, locationally. Yes, slide 1 पे ये पढ़ा था, slide 2 पे पढ़ा था, slide 3 पे. So this is the way that you also should retain. अच्छा, left hand side पे ये लिखा था. Okay, middle में ये लिखा था. Let's say you're reading a newspaper, left hand side में से था, right hand side में से था. So this locational retention helps. Okay, and हमेशा ideas connected होंगे. So your one idea will lead you to the second idea, to the third idea, that way. Okay, chalo. Background info kar, it's not always in fact important to retain the background info. So you should try to retain it only if you know, let's say that the entire passage is very informative. उसमें बस information ही है, right? But अगर ऐसा नहीं है, then the background info, the name itself tells you it's background, main point नहीं है, right? Okay, so I'm launching a poll now for people on the portal, right? And you have to mark your answers in the poll. What is not true? Okay, so 120 seconds. I'm giving you ample time. Okay, and in case you want to go back, you can tell me. Okay, all right. Those who are on the YT channel, you can also come to the portal. I think solving through polls is a great idea. Okay. Himanju, you have to come on the portal. You have to come to the portal to solve it. अच्छा अब किसी को नहीं आई होप नो द पोल इज नॉट विजिबल टू एनीबडी हियर राइट परफेक्ट परफेक्ट because I think the answer was visible to you. Yes? Okay, no, it wasn't. Great, great, great. Okay, so this was, I would say, a moderate question. Okay, so 44% of you've marked this, 33% this, and 22% this. Now, and three of you said in the YouTube chat box that D is the answer, right? So, my question is, why this? Is it because of the word can? You felt that the passage, the excerpt, it said it is not something. Let me just erase this. Yeah. That it said it is not something you find out about instead of you can find out about. Is it because of that? See, the thing is, uh, let's say, because this is a fictional society, it's a fictional society, right? So, can you find out about a fictional society? You are constructing it. Can you find out something about it? You are able to find out about things that exist, but it's a fiction. So, how can you even find out about it? So, just because of this word can, why did you get confused? उसको लॉजिकली सोचो ना. लॉजिकली जो स्टेट ऑफ नेचर है ये फिक्शनल चीज़ है, हम नहीं फाइंड आउट कर सकते इसके बारे में. ओके, सो दिस इज इंडीड ट्रू based on what the passage is saying, and therefore this cannot be the answer. It is likely different from the definition of some of the philosophers. Yes, that is there. We talked about Hobbes, Rousseau, right? Yes, the author said that, correct. Hobbes, Rousseau, and there was one more person, no? Hume, right? So this is given to us. This is also true. So it cannot be the answer. It can be called a fictional idealization. Yes, मेरा passage तो बोल रहा है उसको, तो of course it can be called that. So A, B, C are eliminated. ये तो दे ही रखे हैं हमें, right? The state of nature is an expressly fictional idealization, right? So the answer is D. Now some of you must be thinking, पर ये कैसे answer है? Yes, so those who marked D, why did you do that? What was your logic? So, Kurt, that comes with practice. If there are multiple negatives, no, take some time to first interpret the question stem. थोड़ा सा wait करो question stem को process करो अच्छे से and then attempt, right? It was nowhere mentioned about its practical use. Okay, okay. What was mentioned was that उस time पर उसकी need क्या रही होगी, right? In that community, in that state of nature, what would be its practical need, right? We are not trying to find out if they are of practical use. We are trying to find out, these genealogists, what are they trying to find out? That in the state of nature, what was its practical need? Okay, so that's the difference. Need कि क्या उसकी नीड रही होगी वो फाइंड आउट कर रहे हैं हम, ये नहीं कर रहे कि वो आज यूज़ के हैं कि नहीं है, राइट? सो यूज़ इज़ नॉट द पॉइंट, नीड इज़ द पॉइंट. दैट्स वाई डी इज़ द आंसर. मेक सेंस? Yes, to everybody. Okay, perfect then. Let's proceed. So Kar has a question. He says that मैम जब multiple not होते हैं तो उस question stem से कैसे deal करें? Now this is a good question, right? For example, in your exam, स्पेशली क्या 23 में आई थिंक ऐसे था, बहुत सारे नेगेटिव्स वाले क्वेश्चन थे. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, ऑल ऑफ द फॉलोइंग do not weaken the argument, all of the following do not weaken the argument except, right? So अब ये डबल नेगेटिव हो गया, ऑल ऑफ द फॉलोइंग डू नॉट वीकन द आर्ग्यूमेंट एक्सेप्ट. सो पहले इसको प्रोसेस करो. ओके, ये नेगेटिव है और ये भी नेगेटिव है, तो इसका क्या मीनिंग है? व्हाट एम आई रियली लुकिंग फॉर? यस, व्हाट एम आई लुकिंग फॉर हियर? One option that weakens the argument. I am looking for one option that weakens the argument. क्योंकि बाकी तीन weaken नहीं कर रही हैं, पर एक है जो weaken कर रही है. So whenever you have these double negatives, whenever you have multiple negatives, first process the question stem very well. Okay, and then proceed. All right. चलो अब question 2 देखते हैं. And you have to give the closest analogy. Okay. Let me see what you say. 120 seconds. Oh, okay. This is also visible to you. पोर्टल पे ही आ जाओ, यूट्यूब वाले बच्चे भी सब पोर्टल पे आ जाओ. आई थिंक दैट विल बी मोर फ्रूटफुल फॉर यू. Okay. All right. Interesting. So I believe most of you have marked. Yes, I'm happy that. Okay, why have people in the chat box not answered? Okay, so 50% of you gave the right answer, right? However, 40% said B, and these were the two close options, right? These were the two close options. Now 10% of you say A, so एक बार पहले A discuss कर लेते हैं. A historian reconstructing the actual events. Are we reconstructing actual events? Yes. No. We are not reconstructing history. Historical aspect नहीं देख रहे हैं हम हमारे pragmatic genealogies में, right? The author is explicitly denying that. Okay. A novel is writing a historical fiction based on true events. Again, it's not based on true events. So, it's between B and C. A scientist conducting an experiment to test a hypothesis about human behavior. Is this an actual experiment? Are these states of nature? Am I actually conducting an experiment? Am I actually bringing some people together in a laboratory? Am I doing that? No, it's not an actual experiment. This talks about an actual experiment. That's why it's not the answer. C, a mathematician creating a simplified model. So, what is SON? The states of nature. This is a simplified model. And why am I doing this? I want to understand what was the practical need of these real world concepts that we have, right? Justice, truth, knowledge. So, see, right, Stelify. So, I'm glad that you remembered this. See this part. It gives us a stripped down. I explained to you the meaning of stripped down, something that has only the essential things. Heuristic device, where you're through trial and error, you are exploring something in your imagination, right? Yes, yes, yes. So the logic behind eliminating B, the scientist here is actually conducting an experiment. It's a physical experiment, right? फिजिकल एक्सपेरिमेंट में हम एक्चुअली में जाकर एक्सपेरिमेंट कंडक्ट करते हैं. लेट्स से केमिकल्स, कोई केमिकल रिएक्शन देख रहे हैं, और लेट्स से आई एक्चुअली गैदर्ड पीपल एंड इंटरव्यूड देम, समथिंग लाइक दैट. बट दिस इज नॉट एन एक्चुअल एक्सपेरिमेंट हैपनिंग, okay, to test a hypothesis. It's, I told you, this is in the nature of a thought experiment. Thought experiments actual experiments नहीं होते हैं, physical experiments नहीं होते हैं, right? So that's why it's not similar to what is happening in I mean, it's not really describing the role of SON in pragmatic genealogy. Okay, perfect. Then let's go to question 3. People on YT, just close your eyes for a bit. Okay, I am launching a poll. I'll ask you to open your eyes. Please indulge me for a while. Okay, and you have to weaken here. Okay, just a second. Right, close your eyes. Now you can open. Okay, 25, 63, very happy to see this, and 13. 25, 63, 13. Okay, great. Suryan, Shreya, Mahi, Tavish, excellent. Okay, so this is an easy one. Okay, all right, I'm happy. So, those who've marked A, I understand you're marking A, but tell me, what is the purpose of imagining this state of nature? Is the purpose to find out what is, let's say, the need of our current society, or what is the need of a particular culture, or is the need simply that in a very basic community, how must have these ideas come about, इनकी क्या ज़रूरत रही होगी, ये कैसे इन्वेंट हुए होंगे, किस नीड की वजह से ये इन्वेंट हुए होंगे. That is the purpose. No, fine, they may change according to depending upon cultural context. That may be the case. But what I am doing is I am imagining a very basic community and then seeing what must have been the need in this in this very basic community. So it's possible that they change depending on cultural context, but that doesn't affect the purpose of my thought experiment. That doesn't really attack using state of nature for my purpose. Okay? Because my investigation is not about a particular culture as such. I am taking a very stripped down model. I know it is simplified. The author knows that it is simplified. So that is why A is not the answer. Okay? The author is acknowledging that it is a stripped down version. D says many societies developed similar fundamental ideas without any historical connection to each other. So, how does this weaken the case for using state of nature? In fact, the state of nature is not really considering historical societies or actual societies at all. ये तो fictional idealization है. So D and B, they can be rejected, right? Early human societies were more complex. Again, that does not matter for us. We are not really considering early human societies. We are just considering a basic community. It may not even resemble early human societies. Now, the moment you say that these concepts did not emerge from practical concerns, तो हमारा तो पूरा state of nature का purpose ही ये है कि क्या need थी, what was the practical need because of which they were invented. If you are saying that they didn't emerge because of practical needs, then this whole thought experiment, it collapses, right? It becomes baseless. So if you're saying that they emerged because of purely abstract reasoning and not any practical concern, then this whole thought experiment becomes useless. ठीक है? That's why C is our answer. Okay. Now, fourth question. The last question for the day. Okay. So remember I told you there is a question based on this phrase. That's why I'm not explaining it a lot. So, okay. YT people, close your eyes for a moment. Okay. Now you can attempt. Okay. Others? Giving you ample time. This is not a very tricky question. Just 2 responses on YT. Why? All right. So, 56%. Oh, I am Bangalore has answered. I am Bangalore has graced our session today. Right. Tabish, excellent. Suryan, Shashita, excellent. Now, So I think nobody's marked D. Yes, that's good. The near impossibility. So I'm happy that the word impossibility did ring a bell for you. Also, it's not about explaining ideas, it is about knowing where to begin to actually dissect them, right? So, the answer here really, you just had to simplify it. I talk about unpackaging phrases, unpackaging sentences. यही करना था इसमें. Fundamental difficulty of knowing where to start. Okay, where to start unscrambling. When you unscramble something, what do? You simplify it. Scrambled मतलब कि कुछ mixed up है. Okay, so you try to simplify it or break it down. Yes, that is unscramble. The inscrutable. What is the meaning of inscrutable? It is related to scrutiny. या स्क्रूटिनी मतलब एग्जामिनेशन. इनस्क्रूटेबल मतलब क्या होगा? जिसको आप एग्जामिन नहीं कर सकते. इनस्क्रूटेबल, something that you cannot really examine. Okay, something that you cannot investigate. So to unscramble the inscrutable multifunctionality of our ideas. So they are multifunctional, these ideas, right? So what is happening is this state of nature helps us to overcome this difficulty. What is the difficulty? That currently these ideas, they are so multifunctional, they are serving so many functions, that we don't even know how to begin untangling them, how to begin let's say simplifying or breaking them down, right? That is how intertwined and multifunctional they are, right? तो पता ही नहीं चल रहा हमें कि हम कैसे उसको अनटैंगल करें. So A is the one that says that the challenge of breaking down an idea's many roles. See, multifunctionality, many roles. Yes, because they are unclear, so they are inscrutable, and we have to unscramble them, and they are hard to separate. So hard to separate, unclear, inscrutable मतलब obscure भी होता है, right? Something that you can't clarify, examine. So that's the idea here, okay? D is not the idea. We're not trying to explain anything. We're trying to, know something. Okay. Between B and C, yes, both have an equal percentage. We are not trying to identify the first instance of an idea in history. Okay, we are not trying to do that. Okay, the difficulty of identifying the first instance of an idea. What made you think that हम उसका पहला instance जानने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं? We're just trying to find out कि उसका क्या function रहा है, right? और क्योंकि वो इतना मल्टी फंक्शनल है, हमें पता नहीं हम कहाँ से स्टार्ट करें उन फंक्शंस को डाइसेक्ट करना. सो फर्स्ट इंस्टेंस, नो. And which function of an idea is most important? Again, it's not about any ordering of these functions. Okay, this sentence does not talk about any ordering. I think begin की वजह से you have marked this first or most important. No, begin का मतलब है कि हम शुरू कैसे करें उसको untangle करना. That's the idea. ठीक है, आप कन्विंस हो गए या मैं और बोलूं? Yes, B talks about history. Okay, we're not trying to understand which function is important or not. Yes, excellent. D could be eliminated easily as explaining is not mentioned. Absolutely stylify. चलो हो गए, ताबिश कह रहे हो गए हम convince. Right. So this was today's passage. I deliberately chose a difficult excerpt today. Eon से था तो बनता भी था, right? Philosophy. The title is Ideas That Work. You can go ahead and read the complete article. Interesting है. Okay. And we talked about Pleistocene. So I told you have to find out which scene are we currently in. So read about this. This something about Anthropocene. Read these sources. You can read National Geographic. Oh, nice. Suryansh and Stellify. How to go to the pole through portal. Yes, Himanshi. Next time आप portal पे join करना and I'll guide you through it. Okay. नेचुरल हिस्ट्री और दूसरा किसका है? नेचुरल हिस्ट्री म्यूजियम. किसी की भी वेबसाइट पे जाके जस्ट रीड अबाउट एंथ्रोपोसीन एंड यू हैव टू टेल मी इन द नेक्स्ट सेशन, द नेक्स्ट एडिटोरियल, वेदर वी आर इन होलोसीन और इन एंथ्रोपोसीन करेंटली. ठीक है, ये बताना है आपको. And this is the note on which I want to end the class, right? Uh, Whenever we do something new, there's always this hesitation. We suck at it initially. Yeah, we are bad at it. And a lot of us, because we are now adults, our self esteem gets hurt. कि अरे हम इतने बुरे कैसे हो सकते हैं किसी चीज़ में, हमें तो लगा था इंग्लिश आती है, इंग्लिश तो बचपन से करी है, राइट? So at that point, it's very important to remind yourself that you shouldn't be afraid to be seen trying. It's okay. Maybe you are getting questions wrong here. You are trying, and don't be afraid to be seen trying. उसको अपनी इंसल्ट मत समझो, अपने ईगो को मत लो उसको, ठीक है? डोंट थिंक दैट योर सेल्फ एस्टीम इज गेटिंग हर्ट. यू आर लर्निंग समथिंग न्यू, राइट? एंड दैट्स हाउ ऑल ऑफ अस लर्न. थोड़ा सा सेल्फ एस्टीम को हर्ट सबकी होता है. ओके, all right. Okay, great, Tabish, that you identified this. Yes, one option was talking about practicality. Yes, correct, correct, correct. Good. Okay. So I understand that feeling, absolutely understand it, but this is new for you. You're learning something new. Pats on your back for that. All right. I will see you with two more editorial analysis next week, right? And we'll have an RC technique session as well. And I will, of course, you'll get your notifications on YT and on Portal. Okay, so stay tuned and thank you for attending. Thank you for your patience. Bye. You too have a great evening. Bye bye.